Okay, all praise, glory, and honor is due to the Most High. God of the patriarchs Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And peace to you in the name of His Son. I count it truly a blessing each and every single time that I come to preach the word. Never do I count it as a light thing to do so. And this internet goes out, I'll be coming back on. I'm not sure what's going on, but it's lagging a little bit, at least on my end. And I'm not going to keep you long at all, but what I did want to do is answer a question a sister had. I'm going to read the question. And peace to Brother Willie. Peace to Brother Isaiah. Everything's good. Hopefully everything's well on your end as well. The sister had a quick question, and I can understand where the confusion comes in. And it's pertaining to the place of safety during great tribulation. Peace to you, Brother Cameron. Peace to you, Brother Anthony. It's good to see you there, brother. Peace to you, Mr. Born Again. And peace to you, Brother Jacob. The question is as follows. Peace, Brother Joseph. It says, okay, so I watched the video where you and your father talked about the wilderness and the great tribulation. And I thought you all said that we must flee into the wilderness for safety prior to Christ's return. That is true. And it even says it in Revelation 12. That is also true. She goes on to write, also, didn't your father say that we must escape the great tribulation? And then this is in parentheses, first sign of abomination of desolation, before we end up persecuted with those left behind. Or did he mean that God would supernaturally provide a way for the elect to escape into the wilderness during that time so that we won't have to financially prepare God's, and then this is also in parentheses, God's gathering from the four corners? Could you please help me here, or maybe create an updated video on this, please? I may have gotten confused. And that's from a video I did a month ago, self-exodusing. Okay, I was asking a few questions, and that was one of them. Okay, so she just sent that, so I'm going to answer that. And let's go to Matthew, the 24th chapter, because we should understand first that, you know, even that term, even she didn't mean it in that way, but that whole thing left behind, you know, the world has left common sense behind when it comes to this doctrine of a rapture, because that's not biblical. And you see all the big scholars teaching that. One so-called biblical scholars, one he even died, and that was one of his prominent teachings about the rapture, but the rapture is not here in the Bible. Peace to you, Joseph, brother Joseph, brother EJ, or EJ, brother Marcus, and brother Joshua. It's good to see you all. So here in Matthew 24, his disciples asked him, what should be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? Okay. They say, actually, it's necessary to go up a little bit before that. So in Matthew the 24th chapter, we'll see what, so just so if people don't understand what the question, and for those who kind of get the question, we're going to clear it up. Matthew 24 and verse 1. And Jesus went out and departed from the temple, and his disciples came to him for to show him the buildings of the temple. And Jesus said unto them, see ye not all these things? Verily I say unto you, there shall not be left here one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. Okay, so he's telling them, he's prophesying to them about what's going to take place during the siege by the Romans. That happened in 70 AD when Titus and the Romans, they came and they destroyed the temple. They took Jerusalem. Okay. Peace to you, brother Justin. So it says, and Jesus said unto them, see ye not all these things? Verily I say unto you, there shall not be left here one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. Okay, so now that's important, because what they asked him is, and as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, tell us, when shall these things be, and what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? Okay, so now they wanted to know when that was going to be, but also what's going to be the sign of thy coming and at the end of the world. So you're talking about from 70 AD even beyond us. Okay, that's the scope. So, and I know people get confused also when they come here, because it was some Israelites that came years ago and they did call themselves doing a video and saying I was wrong and all this, but not really saying, how they, but they was definitely contacting me, was talking, there was some communist stuff. They said Jesus was a communist. I'm like, okay. Anyway, verse 4. And Jesus answered and said unto them, take heed that no man deceive you, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. So he warned about deception. He warned of wars and rumors of wars. He warned about famines, pestilence, earthquakes in diverse places. He said, oh, that's just the beginning of sorrows. He said, for then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. Understand, that happened then, it's going to happen again. He talked about all the false prophets who were going to rise. But then he said something. He said, when ye therefore, in verse 15, when ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet standing in the holy place, whoso readeth, let him understand. What's the holy place? Let's go see what Paul said. What holy place is he referring to? Let's go and we'll read it in the book of 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, beginning at verse 1. Peace to you, Brother Lawson. It's good to see you there, brother. So in 2 Thessalonians 2 and 1, it says, now we beseech you, brethren, by the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ, and by our gathering together unto him. So first of all, he's telling you what he's talking about. He's talking about the second coming. He says that ye be not soon shaken in mind or be troubled, neither by spirit, nor by word, nor by letter, as from us, as that the day of Christ is at hand. See, don't be troubled. Something has to happen before he returns. Verse 3, let no man deceive you by any means. Don't be deceived. He said, because you have people say he's coming. You had some people not too long ago. They had billboards everywhere, put mega bucks into saying he's coming back in October. That was a few years ago. You had the Jehovah's Witnesses who had made false prophecy after false prophecy after false prophecy about the return of the Messiah. He hadn't come back yet. Something has to happen first. He said, let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition. So that man of sin, the abomination of desolation. He said, who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God or that is worshipped, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. Okay? So the holy place is the temple. And before the Lord comes back, this man of sin has to be revealed. But it said that Daniel foretold about it. Let's see what Daniel said about this. We're in the book of Daniel. And we're going to pick it up at chapter 7. Or actually, let's pick it up in, he's also dead, referred to him there. But I want to pick it up in Daniel, the 11th chapter. Because earlier in the book of Daniel, Antiochus Epiphanes, he foreshadows this man of sin. He offers swine on the altar, but there's one that's coming that's getting power directly from Satan. Okay, Daniel the 11th chapter and verse 36. Concerning this one, it says, "And the king shall do according to his will, and he shall exalt himself and magnify himself above every god, and shall speak marvelous things against the God of gods." Again, he's pompous, he's arrogant, he's coming out of Rome. If that man is sin, the son of perdition, abomination of desolation, the one whose number is 666, he's coming out of Rome, and he's going to stand in the temple that will be built. It says, he shall speak marvelous things against the God of gods, and shall prosper till the indignation be accomplished, for that is determined shall be done. Neither shall he regard the God of his fathers, nor the desire of women, nor regard any God, for he shall magnify himself above all. This is the arrogance of him. Peace to you, reach one, teach one. So it said, but in his estate shall he honor the God of forces, and the God whom his fathers knew not shall he honor with gold and silver, with precious stones and pleasant things. Okay. So now he's gonna be doing these things, right? He's gonna exalt himself. Let's see what else he's gonna do. Now let's go to Daniel, the 7th chapter. Daniel, the 7th chapter, and verse 25, just so we understand who this is. It says, and he shall speak great words against the Most High. He's a blasphemer. And it says, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws. And they shall be given into his hand until, watch this, a time and times and the dividing of times. Time is 1, times is 2, a half or dividing of time, that's 3.5 years. Okay, now let's go to Revelation, the 13th chapter, because he, like I said, he's going to be getting power from Satan. Revelation, the 13th chapter, and we want to pick it up in chapter 13 and verse 12. It says, and he exercises all the power of the first beast before him, and causes the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. See, this is the kind of power he has. He's getting power directly from Satan. And deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth, that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword and did live. That's talking about the reunification, the revival of the Roman Empire, which you are seeing in Rome today. You're seeing, what was the Roman Empire in Europe today? In Western Europe, it's being unified once again. That's what you're seeing. And they always had a political / military arm, and you also often had in the so-called Holy Roman Empire, you had the religious faction. Well, that's the Pope. Okay, and he's coming out of Rome. That's why it tells you, just on the side note, in verse 18, well, it's not even a side note, but just so you have understanding. It says, here is wisdom, let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666, 666. The curious Philip Day. It ain't Ronald Reagan, it's not Barack Obama, it wasn't George Bush, none of these people. Okay? So yeah, I'm not dealing with that right now, brother. So we should understand that that's who that is. You count vicarious Philip Day, you get 666. What's vicarious Philip Day? Vicar of Christ, replacement for the Son of God. I can't read where he had a replacement. I don't think any pope from Rome can replace him. But that's the arrogancy of him. So now let's go and read this. And it says in verse 15, just to show you his power, it says, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak, and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. Okay, so he's gonna make an image and he's gonna give it life, and then just like, peace to you, brother Tavion, it's good to see you there, brother. Just like Nebuchadnezzar, he didn't get that image that he made life, right, through the power of Satan, but he required that if you didn't bow down to it, you would be. You see what he did to Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah? He threw them in a burning furnace. Well, if you don't take the mark and worship this image, you can be beheaded. But it'd be better for you to be beheaded than to take that. So now let's go back to Matthew the 24th chapter. Matthew the 24th chapter, and we're gonna pick it up at verse 13. It says, but he that shall endure to the end, the same shall be saved. And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. Okay? And then understand that happened, and it's going to happen once, it's going to happen again. But he said, when you therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet stand in the holy place, whoso readeth, let him understand. Then let them which be in Judea flee into the mountains. So now, they should have fled before the siege, but also you're going to have to flee in these days. He tells you why. Verse 21, he said, for then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, nor ever shall be. And this is how you know this is future. It said, and except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved, but for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. This is a terrible time, right? But before the Lord comes back, you had this man of sin, the son of perdition, this abomination of desolation standing in that temple. And he's going to be wreaking havoc upon this earth for 3.5 years during the duration of the Great Tribulation. So during that time, what does the Lord have? Are we going to be raptured? The Bible is not telling you about a rapture before Great Tribulation. The Bible is not telling you about a rapture during Great Tribulation. The Bible is not telling you about a rapture at all. He even said, the Messiah said, no man had to send up into heaven. He tells you, whether I go, ye cannot come. He told you to pray, our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come. Nowhere in the Bible can you read a man's gone to the third heaven. But now let's go to Revelation, because the sister had a question. And the question, I'm going to read the question again, just so we clear. She said, didn't your father say that we must escape the great tribulation, first sign of abomination and desolation? Right. I read that in Matthew 24. She said, before we end up persecuted with those left behind. Or did he mean that God will supernaturally provide a way for the elect to escape into the wilderness during that time so that we won't have to financially prepare? Okay. When you have to flee, he's still making a way supernaturally, as you called it, for you to survive in the wilderness. He's going to make a way for you to get there. You never see where the Lord's deliverance is on your dime, on your own dime. I'm going to deliver you, but it's on your dime. I'm going to get you across the Red Sea, but you know, I got a ferry there. It's a ferry going to be there, and you're going to have to pay. No, they spoiled the Egyptians, but they left, and then he just split the Red Sea and then drowned their enemies. That's not how he operates. When he delivers you, he delivers you. But the fleeing takes place. That's your part of it. See, you do have to take part in it. Like even when I said he split the Red Sea, they had to walk across it. Just like when he's gonna prepare a place for you in the wilderness, a place of safety. Hey, you have to take the initiative to leave. You have to have the faith to do that. That's the fleeing. Let's go to Revelation 12. It says, because this woman that's talked about here, let's pick it up in verse 6. It says, and the woman fled into the wilderness where she had the place prepared of God, that they should feed her there 1,203 square days, 1,260 days. Wait, you ain't have to delete that, man. She all right. I appreciate you, but she all right. She the one that asked the question. 1,260 days. Time times the dividing of times, 42 months, that's 3.5 years. So it said the woman fled into the wilderness where she had the place prepared of God that they should feed her there 1,203 square days. That's during the Great Tribulation. So he has a place prepared. But notice it said a woman fled into the wilderness. Okay? So let's read it. Because even when you look at what Israel did, and them they were pinned, they had the sea in front of them and the armies of Pharaoh bearing down upon them. Okay, and then he split the Red Sea, and they had to walk through it. Verse 13, and when the dragon saw that he was cast into the earth, that's Satan, he persecuted the woman, which brought forth a man-child. The man-child is the Messiah, okay? And the woman is Israel. We know that from the first chapter. And if you read that and then go and reference Genesis 37 and 9, you understand that that's an allusion to Israel. So it says, and the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle. That's a mighty deliverance. This is figurative language. It says that she might fly into the wilderness, into a place where she is nursed for a time and times and a half a time. Remember, we read in Daniel about what that man of sin was going to be doing in time, times, and the dividing of time. That's not by coincidence. So when it's saying flee, we shouldn't think that, oh, you do have to flee, even though he's making a way for you. He's making a way for you to be sustained in the wilderness. He's providing a way, but you still have to take it. You know, that's what it means by flee. And they're gonna be running because listen to this. It says, I'm gonna read verse 14 again. And to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into a place where she is nourished for a time and times and a half a time from the face of the serpent. And the serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away of the flood. So even with that, you still gonna have some danger. Even like I mentioned, they were about to cross the Red Sea, and it wasn't all hunky dory. Everything's copacetic. You had an army behind you trying to slay you. Then it says, and the earth helped the woman. See, the earth. So the Lord swallowed up that water, or whatever it is. It said the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood, which the dragon cast out of his mouth. So again, it's not going to be the easiest thing, but it's the thing you need to do to get deliverance. He's making a way for you, but you got to walk that walk. And it's not necessarily the easiest thing, but he's going to provide. He's going to make a way. He all that's what he else should die. That's what he does. Right? But then it says something, and the dragon was wroth or angry, that's what wroth means, with the woman, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. So yeah, if you don't make it into the place of safety, it don't mean you doomed to hell, but it does mean that you might be in a situation where you end up giving up your life. But even with that, understand that if you stay the course and keep the faith, and even if you are what they call martyred or killed or persecuted, he can raise you from the dead. So it says, so when you say, oh, did he mean that God will supernaturally provide a way? He is providing a way, but you still have to flee. But he doesn't say anything about you having to pay. Because if you think about it, that's not how he operates. He said the ravens to feed Elijah. He will provide. He provides. See, when it's what he wants you to do, it ain't like what you gonna have to do is step out on faith. It's not like you could just sit there and say, well, he gonna deliver. I'm gonna sit there, I'm not gonna do anything. No, you have to actually do something. So it ain't about money. He'll provide you with the money. But in this case, it's not about money. He gonna make a way for you. And then it says, you said God's gathering from the 4 corners in parentheses. I want to make a distinction, and I'm not saying you don't know the distinction, but I want to make the distinction for those who may not know this distinction in the gathering of Israel, because there is the gathering of, and understand, this is not all physical Israel that's gathered here. These are believers. These are the ones who understand, who know him, that are Israel and are part of the commonwealth of Israel, just like they left in a mixed multitude. But that these are the ones that understand what's going on at this time and had a faith to do it. This is not all Israel. All Israel not going to even be at that position. So this is prior to Great Tribulation or before Great Tribulation. Now let's see what the Lord does when he comes back, because he's going to have some in the wilderness here, his people, but not, or his servants. But now let's go, because just because you're Israel don't mean you're his servant. Let's go to Matthew the 24th chapter, and let's see when he comes back, what's going to happen. Matthew 24 and 29 reads, immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give a light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn. And they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. So he's coming back when? Immediately after the Great Tribulation. He can't come back at any time. He has to come back after Great Tribulation. Okay? And they're going to see the sign of the Son of Man, and they're going to mourn because he's coming back in flaming fire, taking vengeance on them and know not God and a little bit on his gospel. He's coming back in war. Okay? This is when the wrath of God is poured out upon man when he returns in the battle of Armageddon. But listen to what else is going to happen in verse 31. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the 4 winds, from one end of heaven to the other. The trumpet is the sound that indicates, when you read in the Old Testament, about the gathering of the people, the going to war, and the coming of the king. He's coming at the sound of a trumpet. You're going to have trumpets at him going to war, but then also the gathering of those people. His elect are the children of Israel. So that's when he's gathering everybody from the 4 corners. It says from one, it says his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other, from north, south, east, and west, wherever they're scattered. Those who, now this is after he's gathered those in the place of safety, or provided a way for those in the place of safety. When he returns, he's going to gather all his people, Israel. He's going to prepare them once again in the wilderness like he did for the first time when that he manifested himself unto Israel. And they're going to do what? Then they're going to go from that wilderness into the promised land. And they're going to be there during his millennial reign. Let's go to Ezekiel, because he tells us this. Ezekiel, let's pick it up in the book of Ezekiel, the 20th chapter. Ezekiel 20 and verse 33, he says, as I live, saith the Lord God, surely with a mighty hand and with a stretched out arm and with fury poured out will I rule over you. And I will bring you out from the people and will gather you out of the countries wherein ye are scattered. With a mighty hand, with a stretched out arm, with fury poured out. And I will bring you into the wilderness of the people, and there will I plead with you face to face. Like as I pleaded with your fathers in the wilderness of the land of Egypt, so will I plead with you, saith the Lord God. So he's going to do, if you want to know what the Lord is going to do, you just have to look at what he's already done. That's how that works. You can look at what he's already done to understand what he's going to do. It says, and I will cause you to pass under the rod, and I will bring you into the bond of the covenant, and I will purge out from among you the rebels. See, that's how you know you're not talking about the place of safety, because his servants, those who were serving him, they the ones going there. But he purged, that's not the place of safety is not for rebels. He even said those that had the faith in Jesus and keep the commandments. You see the remnant. So that's not, no, this is talking about all of Israel that's left at this time. And you're gonna have some, you can hear Negroes now. Man, I ain't going to no wilderness. I ain't doing that. I don't want to go. That's the mindset. That's how they were with it. He said they was trying to go back after he dropped plagues on Egypt. He brought them out with great substance, was preparing them in the wilderness, and they were trying to make a captain to go back. They were constantly rebelling. They actually made a golden calf. He said, I've seen this people. This is a stiff-necked, hard-headed people. He was going to kill everybody and raise up the seed from Moses, because that would have been keeping the covenant that he made with Abraham. But Moses interceded on the behalf of the people. So he said, I will purge out from among you the rebels and them that transgress against me. I will bring them forth out of the country where they sojourn, and they shall not enter into the land of Israel, and you shall know that I am the Lord. Now, see, that's a different, I want to make clear, because some might not understand that. That's a different time. You got the place of safety, Israel going to the place of safety. Those are the believers. Okay? That's Israel, but those, they believe in Israel. See, everybody that's Israel is not, that doesn't mean that they believe. Okay? They're his servants. They might be worshiping Allah or Buddha or anything. That's not who going in then. And that's the place of safety prior to Great Tribulation. When Great Tribulation is over, he's going to gather. He says he's going to gather his very elect. He's going to gather all of Israel from wherever they've been scattered. And he's going to bring them where? Into the wilderness. Now, let's read verse. Let's go to Jeremiah 23 and verse 7. Because he says something here. He says, therefore, behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that they shall no more say, the Lord liveth, which brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. But the Lord liveth, which brought up and which led the seed of the house of Israel out of the north country, and from all countries whither I have driven them, and they shall dwell in their own land. See, that's because he's taking them from there into the promised land. Okay? And so you can understand that we are still talking about the Exodus until this day. But when he does this, you won't even be talking about the Exodus, that first Exodus. Okay? Or when he brought them out of Egypt, because he's going to bring his people from all the countries where they've been scattered. All throughout Africa, Israel remains. In parts of Asia, Israel. In North, Central, and South America, in the Caribbean, in Europe, Israel remains. Few in number. Void of knowledge of self, void of sovereignty, worshiping false gods. That's the situation with his people right now. But that's not always going to be. And with that, I hope that answers your question, sis. And with that, so you don't need any money, but you do have to flee. That fleeing means you have to leave. You have to pick up and leave. I appreciate you, brother. He put the information in there. I appreciate you, brother Willie. Look at the chat. This brother helping me out. I appreciate that. Appreciate you too, brother Tavion, and peace to you, Miss J, and everybody that's listening. We do have Bible study, so if you had questions to the brother that had the question, we have Bible study every Friday. We have it on Wednesday, but that's not a question and answer. That Wednesday Bible study is on Zoom, and it is at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, and the personal meeting ID number is 845-7108-8849. Now, as the brother put in the chat, we have it every Friday at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. So that's tomorrow. And as the brother put in the chat, the number for that Zoom Bible study is 602-961-1318. And then you can come and ask any questions that you have according to the Bible. They'll be asked according to the Bible. You can ask the questions from the Bible. And yeah, that's why I didn't want to deal with that. That's too far off. I'm not doing that. If y'all want them questions answered, y'all can come and get them answered in Bible study. And with that, brothers and sisters, so it's my prayer that you were edified.